Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you can join us tonight. Before we get started and everything, as always, if you're new to this channel, respect the families, respect the mods, and respect each other as you're in chat. We'll have a presentation, a short presentation tonight, some slides. After that, I have a video of, we saw the raw footage the other night that during the morning watch show, but I've created a smaller version of that to show the continuous time frame that it takes to walk that 501 step trail. And it's going to be important because as Richard Allen comes to trial, there's in my opinion, a very critical witness. And it's going to be that witness that saw Richard Allen on that first platform. And so we're going to have to look at it closely and look at that time frame and the situation of what did she see from her perspective, how long of time that she would have been able to be on the trails, and where Libby and Abby were at on the trails also, and their perspectives, and as they may have passed by both the witness and also Richard Allen. And so we have to look at that and see and evaluate exactly what each of these people saw and what will be coming up in court in the future. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and, oh yes, a snarky angel it was.
You go find it.
Yes.
There you go.
Appreciate your support. We thank everyone for being here, and we appreciate that support from the sticker, and means a lot to us as we move forward. And we got a case coming up that we'll be talking about at the end of this show regarding Amber Crum and going out and working that cold case, and we appreciate that support.
So which one are you going to do now?
Do the slides. All right. This slide here is just a overview of all the areas that will be talked about in most of the trial. They're all key points of what went on and the possibilities of movements of individuals that day, including the multiple witnesses, people riding down the 300, the cemetery, the bridge trail where it comes together from the 501 steps to the Moon Island High Bridge, from the abduction site. So this here just gives you a clear picture of from the CPS parking, the Freedom Bridge, the trail accesses, and the movement that would have took Richard Allen to get from where he parked to the point of the abduction. And but that's, like I said, it's just a quick overview on this slide. And then we have this witness that parked at the Mears parking lot. She came by a camera that was on the at the old one of the stores that's along 300 road, and she went there at a specific time, got out of the and parked at the Mears parking area, which after she departed and started walking on the trail, just within minutes, Libby and Abby arrived. Now, all this is shortly after the time period of where Richard Allen had crossed the paths of three other witnesses on up the trail near and close to Freedom Bridge. And those witnesses, of course, will be playing a huge part in the trial. But this witness here that parked at Mears and validates that Richard Allen information that he gave, that he was on the bridge that day, and that she saw, and she corroborates his story. And then her part of it, of being able to say that she was on the trails that day, saw Richard Allen on that first platform, dressed in the manner he was, turns around, and within just a few minutes, just seconds, she crossed paths with the two victims, Libby and Abby. And of course, they proceeded on towards the bridge. And at some point, they would have encountered Richard Allen. And it's during this period, of course, we know that Richard Allen doesn't claim to have seen the witness that saw him on the first platform, nor does he claim that he saw Libby and Abby. But he does claim that he's on the bridge that day, dressed in this manner, and which is absolutely critical. He's put himself there as being on the bridge at the same time that Libby and Abby were in the area. And so anyone and everyone will see how that will play out in court. But as we proceed, Richard Allen was interviewed way back in 2017 when he made contact with law enforcement and saying, I was on the bridge. And law enforcement, of course, were investigating not only Richard Allen, probably at the time, but they also was looking at the Kagan Klein, Anthony Schott's account, and Ron Logan. And for some reason, of course, Richard Allen's interview slipped through the cracks, and he was not put on as a main topic or a main suspect at the time. That changed later in 2022 at some point, evidently, and when he was re-interviewed, and then we know, of course, the search of his residence and then the arrest of him. And so, which is all critical, and it will play out in the courts. And as the proceedings begin and all the pretrial hearings, and as we approach, we'll see where all this information goes and what information will be released, and what points and what facts will be released at certain points. All right. But as I was studying this, because when we looked at this first witness, and she says that she parked at a certain time on the trail there at Mears parking lot and walked, there's a lot of discrepancy, and there's going to be an issue of a timeline that that the closer and the narrower the timeline can be focused of these individuals crossing paths, and it doesn't allow anyone else to come onto that trail or to that be someone that could have been another individual on the bridge other than Allen. And so that's how come it's so critical about this timeline. And so what I did is, of course, this trail is known as the 501 step. It's supposed to be 501 steps from that Mears Bridge crossroad entry to where's the Moonon High Bridge starts. And so the question is whose 501 steps is it? And so I went into and looked up what the average female's step is, and from this university, 26 inches for a female, 31 inches for a male. And then I went on Google Earth, and you can see what the that when you multiply that out by 501 steps, you get these numbers. I added them together, divided by 3, and came up with 1,252 feet, just over of what the average distance would be, because there's a lot of, it's just a few hundred feet between the two, but we still have to narrow this window of opportunity and this timeline that these individuals will have spent on that trail, because like I said, it's going to be critical. So I used the base number of 1,252 feet. And knowing that 1,252 feet, now we need to know what is the average speed of someone walking. And of course, while I was there, I turned on my camera, and after this slide presentation, we'll be doing the video, and you'll see that it took me just over 5 minutes, 5 minutes and 33 seconds, with 1 or 2 stops in there to get from where the trail starts to the edge of the bridge. But when I went in and found the average speed that individuals walk, and people under 30 years of age, they walk about 3 miles an hour. A little bit older, 2.8, from 30 to 39. Same for 40 to 49. So they walk 2.8 mile per hour. And people such as myself, we walk 2.7 mile, 5 miles per hour. And so, like I said, I calculated those out, divided, and came up with an average speed. That's 2.8375. And when you put that into the calculator to see what the average person would have walked that distance, and of course, you have people that walk faster. They may be exercising. You have people that may break into a jog. They may run, or they may just stand and look at nature for a minute as they're walking along a trail. So there's going to be some variables. But just looking at it from trying to knock out as many different numbers and variables as possible, that if you got on that trail and you walked at a consistent speed, it would take you 5 minutes to walk from the Mirror Bridge parking lot to the edge of the bridge. So anyway, so this is where the memorial is set up right there at the when you come into the Mirrors parking lot, which is now blocked off. You have to park all the way back at the Freedom Bridge. And the reason I wanted to do this, a lot of the coverage of this, is so that when and if this court case, as it proceeds, that people will be able to have some knowledge of not only where Richard Allen parked, but what does that pathway look like. And it will have changed some, because in 2017 it wasn't paved, it wasn't as cleared, but the time of year would be the same as what I videotaped, which I was just there on March the 1st is when I did my video. So it's only like a 2-week time period after the 6-year anniversary of Libby and Abby homicide. And so, but I wanted to show you that when you're walking this trail, that any individual on this trail or off into the wood line on either side of it would absolutely stand out. There's no place to hide. You might be able to hide behind a tree or something, but I doubt it that you would go unnoticed. All right, so I have video stamps on this slide presentation that you can come back and look at. But once we start the video, you'll see that this is where I start my video timestamp at 6:05 on the 501 trail. As you progress into the walking towards the bridge, after about 3 minutes and 31 seconds, you'll start seeing the edge of the bridge, which you can hear. This is the first time that you get to see that there's you're coming around that final little curve, and you're seeing the edge of the bridge. So from this point on, after, like I said, 3 minutes, just over 3.5 minutes, you're seeing the bridge. And then as you proceed another minute or so, at the 10 o'clock timestamp, you're 1 minute and 38 seconds from reaching the edge of the bridge. And you have a clear view of almost the whole bridge crossing of the Deer Creek. And it's critical to understand at this point that as this witness is walking this path, and even Libby and Abby was walking this path, that you would be able to see anyone on that bridge for this whole time period. And so this witness, when she goes to court to testify that she saw Richard Allen on that platform, she may have been able to see him before he reached the platform. We don't know what her testimony will be, but we do know that it will be different than someone saying that, well, you walked up to the edge of the bridge and you only saw Richard Allen for 20 or 30 seconds, or an individual that claims that he's Richard Allen on the first platform. And it's different when you add in that we have another 1 minute and 38 seconds of an individual as they're walking to this bridge, that they see someone on that bridge. And, you know, as adults and human nature, you're going to focus on them. And so you have the time frame of Richard Allen being in her view and her able to look at, scrutinize, and develop some type of description of that individual is much longer than just walking to the edge of the bridge, seeing them at 50 feet, turning around and leaving. And like I said, once again, that's going to be something that's critical that'll come out in court. But then when you get to the edge of the bridge, it's a 5 minute and 33-second walk from the time I started to the time that I arrived right here. Now the bridge is totally different than what currently now than it was prior to. I have an arrow pointing to what is the first platform area. And so this would be the view of this witness that when she arrived at the edge of the bridge, that she'd be able to look across the bridge and see this individual who also states that he's Richard Allen. He was standing there looking over the bridge at fish. And I went out and did some footage on the bridge, as you'll see in the video. But I also went out and took a visual of what the creek looked like on March the 1st, 2023, this year, just last week. And you can see it's extremely stained. And to be fair, rather than just say, well, it's always stained, I went back and watched the helicopter footage of February the 14th, 2017, and finally found a section of the creek where it had something that was submerged. And so you can see the tree that's laying in the water. And so you can see the under the water is submerged. I don't know how deep the water is there, but there is some clarity to it. And I wanted to be fair about it to make sure that, that it would be impossible not to see fish, because there is a possibility that the clarity was great enough that an individual could be standing up there and may actually have seen a fish. Don't mean that's what he did. Doesn't mean that's what he was doing. And because there's a lot of different meanings for what fish could be, from the catfishing standpoint to actually looking for fish. But with that being said, we'll come out of this and we'll go to the video.
You want to remove us?
No, you can leave us up there. Okay, this is the video. I sent the drone up, and this is from the.
And Chris is in there.
Hey, Chris, glad you're here. This here is from the Child Protective Service lot area. It's just an overview, 360 degrees, and I'll flip down to show you what a car might possibly look like that would have been parked there it's back then. I'll expand it out, and you'll be able to see that with this vehicle being parked in this manner that was described by witnesses, that you wouldn't be able to see the tag. And of course, like I said, the parking lot has been cleared since then. And of course, this here is the 0300 roadway that runs from the cemetery down past that. Then I took the drone out to the edge of the road, took a picture of this little passageway that runs from the car lot or from this parking area up towards the Freedom Bridge, that anyone that would have parked in this area would have gained access to the Freedom Bridge by either walking up the roadway or possibly walking along this little drive that runs parallel to the Freedom Bridge. And then I did a little bit of footage, took the drone up the road, turned it around, and to show a view of, as you would have, as some of the witnesses, more than just this one witness that saw Richard Allen on the bridge, but other witnesses that were driving on the road that day saw a vehicle parked in this area. And this gives you a perspective of, if you're traveling down the road, what you will see. And as Richard Allen, if you're walking up the road, what you would be seeing as you approach the Freedom Bridge. So I turned the drone around and put it out there to the edge of the road. Didn't want to get out in the middle of the road. Didn't want my drone to get hit by a car, because Mrs. Steve would have been upset if I crashed my drone. But coming down the road, this is what you would see. You just see the front of a vehicle, and would you be able to tell exactly what type of vehicle it is? And just like I said, just wanted to give a perspective of what the parking area would look like, how far vehicles could park off the side of the road, and that, of course, you wouldn't be able to see a tag, that you would only be able to get a profile of the vehicle here. Now, after this, I go up across the road, and this is the general parking area for the Freedom Bridge. It's on the other side of the Hoosier Highway, and there's the Freedom Bridge, and this is the parking lot area, access point to the trails. And then I went over here that on the side of the road where Richard Allen was parked, coming on up the old roadway, and you'll see if you continue up that little pathway or up the road, this is the entryway through a fenced area that has a gate on it that very possibly is the way that he would have gained access to the trails. Trying to fly through here without hitting a limb. But yeah, you just walk through that, and then of course at that time I don't know what the condition of this trail would have been. I don't know if it was as finished back then or as if it's something new. But you can see the Freedom Bridge. Mrs. Steve does not like that bridge. No, but we crossed it, and then of course not on this trip, but on a previous trip there. On this day that I was there, I think I believe I got there somewhere around 11 o'clock that morning on the 1st, and I walked the trail. I think I only crossed paths with 8 people that day. It was an absolutely beautiful day. It was 60 to 70 degrees, and the weather was perfect. But as you can see, when you get to this location here, it's absolutely a beautiful park that has such a haunting and tragic story behind it. But then after this, we go up to the cross trails of the Mirrors. Now here's the memorial that's there at the 501 step crossroads from the Mirrors parking lot. And as you'll see here, straight ahead here takes you to the Moonon Bridge. Going across is where Derek German would have went and hit the other trail that took him down into the other trail. And that trail there is the parking lot area. Everything is very condensed. The parking lot is now gated off, so you wouldn't be able to get access to park there. But at the time, it would have had areas where you could have parked a car. But like I said, this is the area where Derek German would have took that trail to the right. And now here is where I start my walk. And it's interesting that when you take this walk and you're going down this trail, and I know it has been improved from what it used to be, because it used to be just a worn path through a nature trail. But the foliage and everything would have been the same, as you can see on both sides of you. And as you can see down the trail, you can see quite a ways. I mean, at no point on this trail that I think that either looking straight ahead or behind you, that you can probably see, close to 200 or 300 yards at almost any point on this trail. And this is just my slow walk. And like I said, it took me 5 minutes and 33 seconds, I think, from the time I started this and going down this trail to walk it. And so any individual that was on that trail, you would know if you were meeting someone, or if someone was following you, or if someone was standing on the sides. Like I said, there's not a lot of cover unless you're in absolute total camouflage that you would be able to hide out. And as we go down this trail, the footage is pretty consistent. There's a time or two that I have to change out my SD card, and also to minimize any overlaps. That as I splice this together, there's probably only a 2 or 3 second difference than what I would have naturally been able to walk this trail. I probably would have walked a little bit faster if I wasn't having to fly the drone down this trail, because I'm just following around along behind it at, like I said, a nice slow walk, uh, almost 3 mile an hour, I guess. But even up here at this curve, like I said, you can still see a long way in front of you. On this day, once I got down to this location here, I only met 2 people, a mother and her son. They were out on the trails, and like I said, this was just before noon. And as I was leaving, about an hour later, they were up there having lunch at the Freedom Bridge, a little old picnic area over there. So if you ever walk this trail, this is basically what you would see, and basically about, approximate the speed that you would walk on this trail, and the time it would take you to get there. I've heard people talk about that it takes, 10 minutes to walk the trail. It doesn't. I mean, you can. I mean, you can take as long as you want to, and you probably could run it. It's only, like I said, 1,200. You're basically looking at 400 yards. As you start coming around this curve here, you can start seeing the bridge coming into view. Anywhere along this period is where that witness would have probably started seeing um, uh, Richard Allen out there on that first platform, somewhere in this area also. And it's somewhere in this area that when this witness was leaving, that she would have seen Libby and Abby walking towards her, and they will cross paths somewhere just past this location behind us, between here and the starting point of the 501. But like I said, once you get to this point, you can see all the way basically across the bridge, and any individual walking in this area would have paid attention to anyone on the bridge or any movements on the side. Human nature and our instincts, our eyes go to movement, and they go to things that that interest us, and such as other humans. And so this witness would have been paying attention, I believe, totally on Richard Allen, especially at this point. And we'll find out what her testimony will be whenever we get there. And I'm sure that as the prosecution presents its case, they will have a detailed um, um, questionnaire for her to answer and to present to the jury. Now, how they uh, completed these upgrades due to a jury coming here, I don't know. It's possible. They did a fine job on this part of the bridge, because as I went out there on it, Mrs. Steve texted me when I was out there. She says, "You're in the middle of Deer Creek," because she did my locate my phone. Yeah. So she wanted to know if I was down in the creek. But as you walk across the bridge, and right here before you, you see it flares out to the right and left, and that is the approximate point for the platforms that Richard Allen was standing on. I go all the way past it. I'll come back around, and so that you can see what it looks like when you look back up towards the trailhead. But there's where the platforms would be. And this is where, in the background, that you will have seen that picture made by um, um, Libby of Abby. standing just past this location. And you can see down the trail. You can see a long ways down that trail also from this location. And I say approximate for the fact that I didn't measure where that platform was prior to the renovations. I've been out there on the bridge before to this location, to this platform, and it appeared to be the same area. And then, of course, I just proceeded up here to the gated area that's marked off. You could probably, I don't know if anyone has jumped that. I'm sure that people have jumped that, but I'm not going to jump it. I wouldn't hear the end of it. But like I said, that part of the bridge appears to be still structurally sound. There's a lot of ironwork under that bridge. I don't believe.
Can you take a question on the bridge?
Sure.
From Elaine Soares.
Mhm.
This was originally built for trains.
Yes.
Okay. There you go, Miss Elaine.
And I think it's the highest bridge, train bridge in the state. If I believe it has been claimed that. But as you can see, all the way up the trail, you know, a long distance, and there's probably been no other picture or one of the, you know, there's two pictures that have absolutely been studied by everyone that knows this case. One of the pictures, of course, is of Libby took of Abby standing, walking towards her on the bridge, and then, of course, the image taken from the video file of the bridge guy. But here's where I take the drone. I put it out over so that you can see what the stained water looks like. But like I said, to be fair, I went back and looked at the helicopter footage, and that water back in 2017 was a lot clearer than what it is here in 2023. And then, of course, like I said, you can see a long way up that trail. And but that's pretty much it on that. So we can get rid of that.
Hold on a second.
Multitasking. I will remove that. And now, whenever you get ready, and I'll bring up the slideshow. Yes.
You still got more slideshow?
No, I'm just setting it there in case anybody has questions. I'll take it to them.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. Surveillance. Okay. So 833. All right. So let's see here what we got. Oh, Cynthia.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia.
Why didn't it didn't. There we go.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate that. We absolutely will use it in just a few weeks. We're going to Texas. We're going to be going out there to a cold case. So thank you for your support.
And let's go back here. Okay. Now we have Dave. Steve, do you think the Stevenson case was the other tentacle Ellie was investigating?
I'm sure that they probably had looked at it prior to, but you know, is it? No, I don't think it was. I think that's something that came in later and most recent, and they followed it out. And I don't think it's going to have any type of involvement or anything on it now. So I don't think it is a tentacle.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I don't think it is.
All right. And Rhonda.
Oh, Rhonda. Thank you.
Thank you
$49.99. That's what.
much.
Appreciate it. That'll go a long way for helping us. Thank you.
That is awesome. All right, let's see here. And we have Dave again.
Uh-huh.
Steve, according to the timeline, RA must have started following witness number 4. Do you think he might have been expecting her to cross the bridge?
I think that she was his first potential victim. And I think that he did see her, although he claims he didn't. But I think that when she left that bridge, walking back towards um, the Mears parking lot, that at some point he started following her. After she met Libby and Abby, because there's something that we have to realize that uh, witness number 4 says that she met um, 2 girls that she believes was Libby and Abby, and that she continued to her car. And it's about a 5-minute walk. And she left around 2:14. So if you subtract 5 and 2:14, that's at 2:09. So she's still on the trail somewhere around 2:06 to 2:09. She's on the trails there near the Mirrors parking lot while Libby and Abby are out there on the bridge, and they take that photograph that Libby takes of Abby and uploads it at 2:07. So they're both there on the bridge, and in between them, I believe, is Richard Allen. And Richard Allen probably is making a decision of which way he's going to go. He had one witness, this witness that came to the bridge, and I believe he was following her. And then he met, just like she met, Libby and Abby. And he knew that there was no one behind him, that they were going to go to the bridge. And if they crossed that bridge, I think that at that point, he allowed them to go further into a trap. And at some point, he sprung that trap. And of course, Libby was able to obtain that video of him. But yeah, there's a lot of information about that is unknown, but that appears to be the case, because when you look at Libby's and Abby's picture that she took up there near that first platform, there's no one we can see in the tree line or on the trail. Doesn't mean that they weren't there. It's just that we don't see them.
Okay, and then I don't have a little thing to pop up there, but somebody dropped in there about one who sees being a member for 4 months.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely appreciate it.
All right, and here we go. And Snarky Sass Angel, why aren't the autopsies released yet?
And they may not ever be. It depends that they seal them for court for a lot of different reasons. Is the investigation totally closed, or are we still looking at tentacles? And because we have a prosecutor that says that there's other actors. What does that mean? I have no idea. But the attorneys have those, both the prosecuting and the defensive attorneys will have all that information. The general public, we may never get that information.
Okay. And digital, how far is it from the Hoosier Harvest camera to the road where the car that resembled RA's car drove past?
It's not. I wish I had went over there and actually took a picture of it. For whatever reason, I didn't. But no, I mean, obviously you can see when you go on Google Earth, you can look at it. I haven't measured it, but I will measure it and get you approximate of what that distance is. But it doesn't appear to be, 100 feet or so is, from my best recollection of what it looks like. But I'll get that number for you.
Okay, so you have somebody talking about me being Mrs. Steve again.
Okay. All right, guys. Mrs. Steve is Mrs. Steve. She chose that of her own. So play nice, and there's nothing disrespect. Our community named her Mrs. Steve. She fell in love with it, and it's something of her choice. So play nice or go find somebody else to troll.
Right. And Jumpin' Jack Flash, Steve, do you believe RA parked that far away, or was it possibly an accomplice?
Well, to meet the other witnesses and to have that description of an individual matching that, and Richard Allen also says that he saw the three witnesses that described him. So each testimony that will come into court uh, uh, corroborates each other's stories. So Richard Allen was there at the Freedom Bridge entryway at some point as he walked down that trail, and but and so it was absolutely known that that was what was going on. That as far as uh, if there was anyone else in the vehicle, I couldn't tell you. Um, and was he dropped off and the vehicle was being driven by someone else? I can't tell you. Is it a possibility? Absolutely.
All right, let's see here. And this is from Melissa. Wonder how far down it is to the creek.
I think I looked it up. It's and just off of memory, it's either 60 or 80 feet down from that location. I wouldn't want to jump off of it regardless, but I mean, it's not really that high, but it looks, you know, uh, it is what it is. It's not something that you would want to do.
Okay. And from Dee Dee. Thank you. My question is, does he believe the victims were simply overlooked the day they went missing?
Yes, I think that they just the location of when you go to where the homicides occurred, that after they crossed the creek and they're in that part of the area, and they're you're the ridges and the landscape, terrain is almost like a, a box canyon that once you're in that little corner, that there's no way out. You're blocked off by water, and then you got these extremely uh, uh, steep terrain to navigate to get out of there, um, and um, and also to get in there. And uh, people made choices of where they went that day to look, and I honestly do. I think they were just overlooked that first day.
Okay. And from Laura Doon.
Laura Dune, thank you. Um, yes, I'm glad I got a chance to go to Delphi again as I was passing through. The weather was absolutely perfect. The time before when I went, it was snowing, and but this time the weather was perfect. And Delphi, like I said, is absolutely a beautiful place to go, but it has such a tragic story.
You've been wanting to go there,
Yeah.
so that was nice that you were able to.
Hmm.
All right, let's see here. Okay. All right, catching up here. All right, so 8:43. All right, so that was Dee Dee. All
Okay.
right. And Jennifer Rochelle, what's the platform made out of now on top?
I don't know if it's some type of concrete board, or concrete planking, or something. It is interesting to walk on. It's extremely sturdy. Now, when I was out there, it was heating up, and I was all the way out at the end. And when things heat up from being cold, and then they get hot, they pop. It sounded like a 22 pistol going off when it popped, and my heart jumped for just a second there when it went off. But
No thanks.
yeah,
No thanks. Crazy. All right, let's see here. All right. And Anne, Mr. Steve, your footage is a great view of how the girls approached the bridge. But how do you think RA approached the area?
Well, the three witnesses, when they saw him, he was walking down the trail from the Freedom Bridge when they met him. And so, was this his natural travels that he had been to the bridge prior to? And is this something he did frequently? Uh, Whenever we get to court and we see the history of his normal habit patterns of how often did he travel to the bridge, and we hear the stories along those lines, we'll understand, But I think he walked the exact same path that uh, the witness who saw him on the bridge walked, and I think he walked the exact same path that Libby and Abby walked to the bridge. Now, after the homicides, I think he took uh, absolutely different paths. I think he came up through the wooded area, stayed in the wood line near the road as much as possible until he was driven that he had to either walk through people's yards or he had to walk in the open along a certain open area of the roadway where that other witness reported seeing a muddy, bloody individual.
Okay. And Davy, do you have to cross the Freedom Bridge to get to the Moonlight Bridge?
No, you can get to it from several different areas. I was Mrs. Steve and Purdue RN dropped Mr. Purdue and myself off at the Mears Bridge entryway. You can still just stop there right quick and get out of the vehicle and still gain access there. Or you can gain access from that entry point at the Freedom Bridge without having to cross the Freedom Bridge. Or you go across, there's a lot of different ways, and you can go through any of the wooded areas to get to it. I mean, there's no fences between the 0300 road and the trails. Now, there's some rough terrain at certain points, but it's nothing that you can't get to the trail at any point. And we got that one.
All right, let me hide that one and go here and say one who sees.
Hey, one who sees. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh, that's so sweet. All right.
Appreciate your support.
Okay. Let's see here. 847 goes away. And from digital, the PCA said the witnesses' cars were spotted and was seen, so the camera is close enough to distinguish make and model of cars? Question mark.
Yes, I believe so. It would be on that because, and it is odd that they didn't pick up individual walking alongside the road, but they did pick up the vehicles, and that could be a lot of different things that the camera's settings are for certain pixel size. Some of the cameras that I use are exact same way. I can walk past them; they won't pick me up as an individual, but if you drive a vehicle past them, they will pick up the vehicle and activate. Is that what happened on this day? Possible.
Okay.
And then, yeah, like you say, in the probable cause, it does say that certain vehicles matching the description, color, and things.
All right. And Davey, well, is there video or images of RA crossing there?
None that I know of. And I, like I said, just as I explained in the last question, that um, on the cameras I have, you can drive a car past them and they'll pick up vehicles. But if you walk past it, one of my cameras is probably 125 feet from the road, and it won't pick up an individual walking in the road, but it will pick up vehicles.
Okay. And Michelle Berry, Angels Are Among Us. When this goes to court, will it be televised? I am in Indiana, and this story broke as my daughter was a teenager, so it's been part of our lives as well.
I think there's some type of experimental cameras usage in Indiana. I don't think all courts have it. Don't know if this will be, or by the time this goes to trial, will it be televised? I'm hoping it will be, uh, because as we just saw in the Murdoch homicides in South Carolina, the coverage of it is critical, and it gives you a perspective of how our court systems work, and ensures that you know people understand our court systems. So I hope it is televised. Don't know if it will be, but I hope it will be.
Okay, and Honeybee, can you see the crime scene area from any part of the bridge?
You can see, I mean, there's one bend. If that one bend in the creek wasn't there, you could see it. You can see almost the general area through the treetops, but you can't really distinguish anything. Where they crossed was in a area that is hidden from easy view of the trail, of the bridge.
And from Anne, Mr. Steve, so you think he parked in the Freedom Bridge parking lot?
No, I believe exactly where he parked at the CPS across from the Freedom Bridge parking lot. Over there next to the 300 is where I believe he parked. I just showed, whenever I did this video, I just showed all areas in different perspectives. I just wanted everyone to see the different areas of how people could gain access to it. But no, he parked over there, from my understanding, at the CPS building.
In Purdue RN, Mr. Steve, we were there Sunday and I was surprised how much we could hear sounds from afar without foliage on trees. Heard a train whistle from in town out at High Bridge.
That's interesting. You know, I was wondering how far, because I really, all you hear on this day that I was there with there was no wind, there was nothing, but you could hear the creek running. And I found that interesting. And, but no, I hadn't heard the train whistle. I wish I had.
And Jumpin' Jack Flash at Steve, off topic, but your Murdoch shooting reenactment was amazing. Kudos, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And True Crime with Marvin Frank. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Mr. Steve, do you plan on being there for the trial?
No, I won't. If by chance I'm traveling through going up to work on the Evansdale, Lyric and Elizabeth, I might stop in. We've got several things that we're looking at up there on that case. So I will be traveling back through there several times this year. And if by chance there is a trial while I'm in the neighborhood, I will probably stop in.
And DZ question: is the crime scene fenced off since it's on RL property, or is there access to it?
It's pretty well open. You can, walk up the creek, in the creek, or on the edge of the creek, and there's no fences or anything. And now getting to it from the cemetery, you can't, because you would have to climb a gate or a fence. But down water rights, or if you was in a kayak, you're easy access to the general area if you're in any type of a boat or a kayak.
Okay, and Honeybee, Mr. Steve, have you ever explored the trail off the left of the north side of the bridge?
Yes, Randy, when we went out there, Randy took us and we went down that exact trail, and overlooked the creek up towards where the crime scene was. But yes, at some point, as you go on over there, 200 or 300 yards away, and probably about 150 yards before you get to the crime scene, you almost have to go down this. Well, you have to go down extremely steep embankment. It's almost a bluff.
Almost a bluff. I called it a bluff. All right. And Jeff, is this what the bridge looked like during the crime?
No, not this section. But if you watch the video, when you get to the end of this renovated and you see the old cross ties, that's what it looked like then from end to end.
Or your thumbnail?
Yes, on the thumbnail. If you go to the thumbnail, that's what it looked like end to end.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Steve, so if he parked at the CPS building, what was his walking route to get to the bridge trail? Via the Mears entrance?
No, although he could have, and I think that's how he came back, was from the Mears entrance, somewhere's in that area to get on the 300. But to meet the witnesses near the Freedom Bridge, he would have had to gain access in that area to be on the trails at the same time the witnesses were. So if he walked in the direction of the Freedom Bridge from where the CPS building is along 300, then there's that first gated area that takes you over there near the area of the Freedom Bridge, and where you gain that first access to that trail system.
And Ramona, Mr. Steve, do you think someone on 300 could have heard the girls if they screamed or were screaming?
Until I went there, I always thought that would have been a possibility. But once you're there and you're at the crime scene and you're looking up those steep embankments that are, 70, 80, 100 feet over your head, and you're standing down there next to that creek, no, I do not think that they could have been heard.
Okay. And Melissa, did you walk to the crime scene, Mr. Steve?
Not on this day. I've been there before, both in the daylight and in total darkness.
All right, so that was it for this. Let me see here. And that was it.
All right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Before we get out of here tonight, guys, I thank everybody that supported us and gave us everything. But if any of y'all are interested in supporting us on a cold case, we're about to go to Texas in just a few weeks. If you're interested in supporting us by any means, we appreciate it. By views, by sharing the video, by subbing, by memberships, we appreciate it. But also, we've opened up a new foundation that if you wish to support the foundation, just go to truecrimeweb.com, and there's a donation page there. We have a 501c3 that is a foundation that gives you the tax benefits, and we appreciate your support, and absolutely means the world to us, because we couldn't do it without you. And then we got Honeybee there.
Okay. You want me to do my question?
Sure.
All right. Christine, did you see or notice a tunnel by the bridge? Just curious, because I have heard it mentioned in other discussions on this case, but not by law enforcement. So we're wondering if it's just rumor or fact.
I've never seen a tunnel. I have never. I've seen where people had mentioned that there are tunnels that exist, but I know of none. And I think after 5 or 6 years, that if there were, we would see someone going in and out of one. Someone would find it and take a picture of it.
And Honeybee.
Honeybee, thank you for your super sticker. Appreciate your support.
We appreciate that. Let's see here. From JJ, if this was a random, then where do the tentacles fit in? You're still working on that.
Yeah. There's so much that's been confusing about this, and were the Libya and Abbey catfish? Of course, they were catfish, but were they catfished and lured to the bridge that day? That is a possibility. Law enforcement will be looking at every possibility. And when they speak of tentacles, is that what they're talking about? I don't know. There's been several times that law enforcement made certain statements that are confusing to me. But that happens in all homicide cases, and we'll just have to see uh, how they clarify what those tentacles are.
Okay. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button as we're checking out tonight. Looks like we are done. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
mods. Couldn't do it without you. Y'all are the best.
Yep. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Y'all stay safe out there. And I'll tomorrow night I'll be having the members only for is it? I think it's going to be for the detectives and commanders. So I'll see y'all tomorrow night, somewhere around 7 or 8, and then I will have my morning watch Wednesday night, or really Thursday morning at 12:05. So I'll see y'all then. Stay safe. Appreciate y'all being here.
Love y'all.